day. Welcome back to class. In this lesson we are going to talk about HTML forms. I'm going to take my time to explain this thing to you because it is very important. You're thinking of what is the HTML form used for? Don't worry, I've got you covered. First of all, just open your text editor, create a file, give it any name you want, but never forget your extension .html. You can choose to give it your own name, as I have done mine. I have row.html here. You can give it any name at all, as I said earlier on, but don't forget the .html. Now you ask, what's the form element used for? But don't worry, how many times have you visited a website that require you to log in, that require you to log out, that require your password, that require your email, that require you pick a date for your birthday, that require your hometown, that require your father's name, your mother's name, that require your nationality? When did you visit a website that you did all this? Which time did you try updating your profile picture, either on Facebook, WhatsApp, or whatever have you? Is there any time that you did any of these? Oh, then you are actually interacting with a form element without knowing. Yes, I'm telling you, you did that without knowing. Luckily today you are here and you finally unveil what the HTML form element is. There are a lot of contact pages on the various websites that we have visited. Do you know how these things came about? No, don't worry. That's why you are here. And that's the answer you get at the end of this lesson for today. So HTML element, especially the form element, is the backbone behind all these things that you see. So, don't you think it's necessary that you learn this? I'm going to teach you and ensure that you understand in details, in depth actually, what the HTML form is for. Don't panic that much. No, you are at the right place. I hope by now you are done creating your file. Just get your skeleton and maybe we should be good to go. Have you gotten your skeleton? If that's fine, come down, go to title and change the title over there. I don't like documents. Documents is not what I like, so I'm changing mine to HTML forms. Change it to something suitable. Now come down and let's begin. Remember when we were discussing HTML tables, I told you the most important element in HTML tables is the table element. And without a table element, any other thing that you write is meaningless, senseless. It will be very difficult for the browser to get to know that what you really want is a table without a table element. Is that alright? In the same vein and way, if you want to really incorporate a form, if you really want to get your users sign up, if you really want to get your users sign in, I'm very sorry, I had some fever recently and I've been coughing all this while, but I needed to do this video for you, so forgive me in case I cough. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's continue. So if you want your user to sign in, sign out, log out, log in, if you need a name, if you need a password, if you need an email, if you need a phone number, then I think you should get your form element ready. So first of all, you need a form element and you got that right. Let's go inside and open it. The same way that we have tables, we also have forms. You could see in the first opening tag of the form element, you have an attribute we call the action attribute. You ask yourself, what is this action attribute used for? You remember when you started your journey as a website designer and developer? I told you something earlier on about what website is all about, what the internet is all about. And I made mention that the journey that you have taken upon yourself is in factions, right? They are in sections. I'm very sorry for this. They are in sections, and you are now tackling the front end of it, what the users see. But the real work behind, you haven't got there, and that's where the action element points you to. So the action elements actually points to our server, okay? And you need that, you think that the data that your users will be entering, what do you think you will need this data for? You ask them for that, right? You wanted to know their name, they have given you. You wanted their number, they have given it out. Their email, they have given it out. You wanted them to be very specific and unique, and therefore they came up with a password. What are you going to use this data for? That's where the action attribute comes into play. So the action attribute actually points to our server, and the data, it means that whatever data the user will be inputting in here should be sent to our server. If you don't want it to be sent to your server, then whichever place you want to keep it, it's up to you. Since we have not tackled the server yet, we are still an infant in that way, I will just leave this guy and say my server. Actually, this wouldn't do anything, okay? I'll use the camel case, my server, and we will be fine here. We'll be fine here, okay? So the action actually point to my server. Okay, so that's where the data that the user will be inputting will be stored. So the action attribute defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. Usually the form data is sent to a file on the server when the user clicks on the submit button. In the example below we are going to take, we will learn more on that. Okay, so the information or whatever data the user inputs here will be sent to the server, and we'll use that one to know the kind of user that we are having. Okay, that's right. If the action attribute is omitted, what happens? In case I come here and I say no, I don't think I need the action attribute, let me get it off. So just cut it off, and I save my work. What do you think happens? Okay, so when the action attribute is omitted, the action is set to the current page. So it means that you are not sending the thing anymore. Okay, you just want to retain it on the current page, and we'll give it to you there. So whatever you use this for on the current page is up to you, but it's always advisable to print or use the action attribute so that it points where the data that will be input by the user will be sent to. Okay, it's a good practice, so let's get it back. I'm saying my server because it actually, if I try to do something here, it might get us a whole year. Okay, but for now let us take it like this and continue with that. You will understand later on when we get to the back end of career. There are other attributes available that you can use with the form element. We have the target attribute. You remember what the target attribute was used for? In hyperlinks or in the anchor element, remember? Okay, so what are some of the values of this target element? So the target element actually shows where the response that is given off. Let's say I click on submit the next thing that happens is what we call the response. Okay, if I come to your site, I do one or two things, I click on login, what else happens? Okay, so whatever happens is the response that the user is getting as a result of the data he or she has inputted. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so the target will specify which window that the user gets the response. So I can choose to say you always have to get an underscore, maybe self. Remember, we have self, we have self will make it, it will open this thing in the same window. You remember that one? We have blank, which means it should open it in the next window. We also have parent, you remember, which means it opens it in the parent window. We also have what, tab, which means it opens in the top window. Remember this thing? That's great. Okay, so these are some of the attributes that you can also have. These are some of the attributes you can also have. We also have autocomplete attribute on the form. Actually, we don't use these things very much here, but when we get to the back end, I would explain these things very well to you. The autocomplete attribute specifies whether a form should have autocomplete on or off. When autocomplete is on, the browser automatically completes values based on values that the user has entered before. Okay, so we can choose to set it on or off. When the autocomplete is on, the browser automatically completes values based on values that the user has entered before. Let's say we have a user who has been coming to our website often. For instance, you have been visiting your Facebook page often. When you go there, sometimes you don't need to re-enter everything. The moment you start entering your name, then you'll be given the full name. That's the power of the autocomplete. Okay. The moment you start entering your email, you'll be given your full email. That's the power of the autocomplete attribute. So you learn that one. It's advisable to normally set it on, but if you choose otherwise, it's your own cup of tea. Any other attribute for the form element? The no validate attribute. We also have the no validate attribute, and that one, it doesn't take any value. Okay, it's a valueless attribute. So the no validate attribute is a Boolean attribute. You know what a Boolean attribute is? So it's either true or false. That's what a Boolean attribute is. You take these things very well, because when you get to JavaScript, you're going to need this very well. So please, you take or you grasp it. So we are saying that a no validate is a Boolean attribute. A Boolean attribute has two values. It's either true or false. Okay, you take note of that. When present, it specifies that the form data, that's the data that was input by our user. The data that was input by our user should not be validated when submitted. What do we mean by should not be validated when submitted? Don't worry. When we get to the back end, you understand these things better. So these are some of basically what are some of the things that you would be able to have on your forms. But I don't think these things are all necessary, especially to me. So maybe the most important thing that I might need here, the targets might be needed, if that's what. But if I want it to be open in this same, I don't think the target is needed. So maybe the autocomplete. Oh, damn it. Maybe the autocomplete should be maintained. The no validate and other stuff, you can still keep them if you want to. So let us move on. Okay, so that's that. Now we've gotten to know some of the attributes that are used on the form element. The next and the most important element when it comes to forms is the input element. What did I say? the input element. What did I say again? I said the input element. Okay, so as a website designer and developer, please and please, input element is very important. It is the input element that helps you. Maybe I should just go to my browser first. Let me come here, save my work, go to my browser, and let's refresh. So far we've written a lot, right? Let's refresh. What do we see? Nothing. Let me refresh again. Maybe you did not see nothing. We cannot see anything at all on our web browser. So let's go back here because we haven't actually done anything yet. We have just started. Okay, we have just started. So let's take it a bit further. So an HTML form is used to collect user input. The user input is most often sent to a server for processing. Okay, and that's what I have said earlier on. We'll take it a bit further, and I was talking about the input element. Okay, so the HTML input element is the most used form element. The most used form element. There are other form elements available, but it's the most used. So let's get into practice. I'll just call on my input element and maybe choose from this guy, and there we go. When I click Ctrl plus S, save my work, go to my browser and refresh my browser, now we could see something over there, right? In this box I can just enter anything at all, anything at all, anything at all, and I'm good to go. Okay, so that's that. That's what the input does. It creates a third box that the user will be able to interact with. So the user will be able to input something, and it is taken up from there. Now let's come back here. You see that just after the input elements, I don't know if you are actually seeing this. Maybe I should enlarge this guy a bit for you to see what I mean. Oh, no, too much for them. Okay, so I think this one is quite okay. So you could see that after input, the type attribute comes. What is this type attribute? You know, there are a whole lot of things you would expect a user to you would expect to get from a user on a website. You can choose to get a file from the user, a photo from a user, a date from the user, a color from the user, whatever, just call them. They are the name, the password, the email, they are all there. So the type attribute will help you specify the type of input you expect from your user. Okay, the type of input you expect from your user. But let's go to our browser. Let me show you one thing. Let me refresh this guy. If you go to a website and you see this text box with nothing, what will you do? What would you do? Okay, let's say you get to know that you need to enter something, but what actually do you need to enter here? That's where our label element comes into play. That's where our label element comes into play. So the label element helps us get a label of what is needed by the input element from our user. So you call on label, forget about this guy for now, and you say maybe your name. Okay, your name. Then the user will be able to know that, oh, this text box require me to what? Input my name. So refresh, and there we go. So you can see your name, then the user will know, oh, okay, so I need to input my name here and nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. You get it? That's fine. So let's say my name is this guy and I'm good to go. Now that's what the label element is used for. When we got here, I said we should forget this guy. Still forget that guy, okay? Because I'm going to explain it to you what it does. Let's move on. Maybe sometimes you don't just need a name, but you need maybe a first name, a last name, and the list goes on, okay? The first name, your first name, maybe, yeah? Then, when we take it a bit further, maybe you need another name, and this time around it's going to be your last name, right? Last name. So maybe last name. last name, right? Control plus S to save our work. Let's go and we should be good to go. So something might have happened. That's why we are not seeing our input. Okay, so what happened? We haven't placed an input element yet. Okay, so let's go get an input for that and say, let's call on this guy and say yes, test, control plus S, save our work, go to our browser, then we should see something better. But you could see these guys are too stuck together. So let's go back and get it some spacing between these two. I think another to about it. And refresh, and we should be good to go. Okay. So now this is what we have. We have your first name, your last name, then the user will be able to know what to input. Okay. That's fine. I hope now we can take it a bit further. You are learning, right? That's great. But do we always require to get a test from the user? No. Sometimes we might need something else, maybe choosing the color that the user likes best or the most, and we would be able to do that by calling on a paragraph element. Say choose your favorite your favorite color, right? That's fine. Then we were supposed to actually wrap this guy inside of a label. Yes, maybe supposed to wrap you inside of it. Choose your element. Look at what it's trying to type from you. Choose your favorite color. Okay, so we wrap that inside of our label, and I think this guy should disappear at once. So get out of here. Okay, so choose your favorite color, then we'll be able to specify that one using the input element. So I'll just call on color. You are seeing other things, eh? Don't worry, I will explain everything to you. That's why you are here today. So now the user will be able to choose color from here. So let's go here, click on that dark button, then you can use the slider over here, move to your favorite color. When you get there, you can use this guy to move to the color that you like best. Maybe this guy is okay. No, it might be okay for me, so I've chosen my color. You can also try it and choose your color. Okay, don't worry. Okay, so now we move on. So now we've been able to take a test from the user. We've been able to ask the user to choose a color. Maybe sometimes we also need a password from the user. Or what do you think? Yes, the user should give us their password so that we rob them. Okay, so that's just by the way. So we get another input and say we'll get a label first and password. Don't want to write anything long. Enter password, and then we go down. What do you think? We need an input, right? And we say password. In this case, not test, just need test. But you ask, password is a test, right? Yes, password is a test, but a special test. I know that. You know it's a special test. So enter your password. Let's take a difference here. I'm entering my name. You see the letters? Yes. I'm coming to enter my password and you tell me the letters for okay. You see the letters? No. Maybe you saw it. Just look at it. Well, did you? No. So that's the difference between you setting the type to password and the type to test. So please and please again, as a website designer and developer, you might come across a problem where you set the type of a password where you needed a password onto test, then that might cause a problem. Okay, it must cause a problem, so you have to be very, very careful. Now after the user is done with all these, maybe there should be another one, right? uh, the user should get us an email. Yes, email. Okay, that's fine. We have our email. Okay, so you say your email. Okay, your email, then we are good to go. After that, we need an input, right? And we just set it to email. No plans. Now let's see something. Let me refresh this guy, and we are good to go. Still. Let's go. Let me refresh it. We are good to go. So your email. Now let's see. I've entered my password, my email. What else do you need in an email? I'm done. Am I done? Are you sure? No. We need the @. Okay. Okay. Now I want to introduce some important concept to you. Some important concept to you. When you come to the email, sometimes you see that if you don't enter your email, you wouldn't be able to proceed with the form. You get it? You wouldn't be able to proceed with the form. We have an attribute we call the required attribute. When we set a required attribute on an input element, whichever type that is specified, it means that if you have not done, or if you are not input that data we need from you, then you cannot proceed with whatever. If you want to log in, it means you cannot log in. So in this case, we are making the email a required. Okay, we are making it very, very required. Let's go to our browser and refresh it. Now, let's see. Then when will you see this thing in effect? Let's move on. Then I will also yeah, yeah. So label. It's going to take something. I don't think label is needed here. Now we have an input and we need a submit button. Okay, to specify that there is a submit button, you have to set the type to submit. Let's refresh and you see we have something like this over here. It is always by default submit, that's written in there. If you don't want submit, and let's say you want to log in, then you have to use another special attribute we call the value attribute. Okay, the value attribute. So let me set the value attribute, then I would be able to say log in, right? That's fine. So I can go in here. When I refresh, see what happens. You see that this submit that we have written in our submit button disappear. Then we will have something else. So we have login. Okay. So when the user clicks on this, the action attribute we did talk about not a while ago will take place here. Okay. So just click on this, and there he or she goes. And don't forget, we said this thing is set to the current page. If we don't, okay, the file could not be accessed. That one is due to the fact that we haven't set any action on this guy. Okay, but the action that we set was not real. It's just a model of what the real thing is. Okay, so now how many different inputs that have we considered so far? Considered a lot, right? We've considered a lot, but is that all that you would want from a user? If that's not all, then let's take it a bit further. Let's take it a bit further so that you learn the other input you'll be expecting from a user and how to take them from that user. Okay, from that user. Let's go on. I'll say another input. Good things. Input. So in the type, we will specify the type. Okay. We can say email. We've talked about email already. So file, maybe let me this guy. Okay, and label. I don't need the 4. Let's see. Let me see. Choose file. This thing is not even needed because it will automatically say that choose file. It will automatically say that for me. Okay, but the label has to be something else. I wouldn't say choose file. Maybe upload image. Upload something. Plus put my mesh, and then I'm good to go. So whenever you want the user to choose something or upload something, that's where you set. Let me come back here. You set the type to what? File. Okay, so that the user will be able to upload a file. So let's come here. Let me click on choose file, and it will load me my browser or whatsoever I have. Go to my desktop or document. Go to desktop. Do I have any file? Let me take the table. So I've chosen one file. Okay, file is one table. So whenever you need a user to input or something like that, you'll have to do that for the user. Okay. We have others available. If you want the user to input a telephone number, what do you think will be the type for the input element? The type should be tel, right? Telephone. So you have to tell the person input your telephone number, right? So label your phone number. Okay, your phone number, and the user will be able to do just that. The user will be able to do just that. So refresh the phone number, and then this time around, if the user try to enter this guy, what do you see? Phone number, and the user is entering this. So when we get to the server side, you will be able to restrict the user from entering certain numbers like this. Okay, so in this case 0012345 is the number that we are requiring here, isn't it? That's fine. So let's go back to our test editor and continue with the good work. So if you want the user to get an image instead of a file that we did earlier on, then you can just set that. Let me try and use this guy. Okay, so in this case we don't want a file, we want the user to what? Just upload an image. So let's refresh. So our image is there, and you can see because the user uploaded an image, user clicks here, back. Okay, so go to the document. There we go. Don't worry, we'll get to that and stand better. So we have the password, we have the submit, we've talked about that. Then the reset. Sometimes users do forget their passwords and other stuff, and they will need a reset button, right? A reset button to do the magic. What does that actually do? It's actually undo whatever the user has already entered and has saved previously. It undoes it, and the user is given, let's say, a second chance, right? So you have to just set input just have to set input to um input to reset. Okay, type to reset and you are good to go. I think so. When you refresh, you should get your reset button. Okay, so when you click on reset, you can choose to give it any name at all. Let's say reset password. And how do you think you will be able to do that with a value attribute, right? So you say a reset password. Tell the user reset password from here. Then the user will know what to do, right? Refresh, and there we go. You get it? So when the user clicks on this, he or she knows what he or she is after. Okay, that's really well. Let's take it a bit further. Now we move on to the radio. The radio. This is very, very important. Let's say we are setting an online exams for students for a certain school. We are lucky to get a school which wants an exams for the students. How do we go about that? Okay, how do we go about that? So I'll just call on break elements so that it breaks it from these guys. Maybe 3 should be enough. I've been falling into a trap here most of the times when I try to use this, and I think you as an incoming developer too, it's likely you get into this. Don't worry, I will deliberately get into the trouble and then use my trouble to explain it to you well so that you understand what it means and how to avoid it, so that you wouldn't ever come across this in your life. And if you do come across that, how to go about that. Okay, so let's not waste much time. Let's begin. So we want to just ask our students how many state of matter. I don't even know the answer myself. State of matter. Yeah, but I'm sure you too, you don't know. Okay, well, how many state of matter do we have? How many state of matter do we have? Okay, this question requires just one answer, right? But we have to give the students options for them to choose from. Options for them to choose from. And this is where our new type of input is going to come from. Okay, so we just get a label. I would say this label to get an okay, so I'll use this platform to explain the 4 attributes here. So for now, let me say 1, and I'll go say 1. Then I'll get the input for the user, right? The input for the user, and I'll say input this time around test. So okay, so this is another wonderful type of input you can have. Okay, then we have another wonderful attribute for the input element. We call it the name attribute. The name attribute is actually needed in all input that you specify on the website. In all input, if you don't specify the name attribute and give it a value, it means that whatever that the user will be inputting at that spot wouldn't be sent to the server when the user clicks on submit. Okay, so for instance, all those that we have done and we have omitted a value for the name attribute, it means that those data will not be sent to the server when the user does that. Okay, now we move on to the next one, ID. You remember IDs when we did tackle it, CSS selectors, I guess. Yeah, CSS selectors, IDs. We did mention of IDs. You can have just one ID, but you can have a multiple of people in the same class. You get it? And that was the difference that we made earlier on. Okay, so now we move on and I explain the 4 attributes on the label element. So you see that the ID, the value for the ID and the value for the 4 attributes you see here on the label element, I mean this guy, is almost the same. It's the same, not almost, it's the same. You get it? Why? We are saying that we'll have a lot of labels, we will have a lot of inputs on our website. Okay, you could see we have a lot up there previously, but what is this label for? Or whose or which input is this label for? So we are saying that this label is for the input with an ID of value 1. And which one is that? It is only this. Okay, so it is the one having the ID 1, the one having the ID 1. Okay, I said I will fall into a deliberate trap and you will get to know. So we are giving our student 3 options to choose from. Let's move on. I think go on to label again, but this time around we are going to say it's for 2 because we want to say the state is 2 for our student. Okay, then we get an input and the input is still radio, so please you take note of this guy as well. Then the name I'm going to say state. You check this guy well, and don't forget the ID should be the same as the 4, right? So 2. Okay, I hope we are good to go. Now when I come here, give it a break, can move on again. And call my label element, and I'm saying this one is for 3. Okay, and 3 will be here. I'm not saying whatever you give to the 4 should be what you write inside, but whatever you give to the 4 should be what you give to the ID. Okay, the name is state. Then I'll do this one start, then the ID should be 3, right? Okay, Control plus S, save. Let's go here. Let's go to our browser, refresh, and you see something over here. Oh, this is really bad. I'm supposed to get this guy arranged well. Okay, so we need to get the label after the input. You know that? We need to get the label after the input. Oh, this is really bad for me. Alright. Holy girl. Okay, so first label. Second label, I think this guy has to be here. Control plus B. Nice one. Then where is this label? Come here. Okay. Come here. Okay. So that we will just take it off and place it somewhere so that at least we get a better. Okay, now go to our browser and refresh and we should get something better. That's fine. Okay, so how many states of matter do we have? So the user clicks on here, the student clicks on here, the student clicks on here. So you see, in this case the student has been able to choose all the 3 options that we gave the student. But is that what we actually want? No. And do you know the reason why we are getting this? No. But we don't have to get this, right? Yes. So how do we get what we really want to get? I don't know. Don't worry. So follow me and I will teach you. So come here. When it comes to the radio attributes, the name element for all the different input that you'll be having should have the same value. So here state, I will just make it state, and here again I will just make it state. Okay, let me Control plus S to save, refresh, then let's see what happens. Okay, so will the user be able to choose all the 3 answers again? Come here, you see now, come here again, you see now, that's it. So it means that they are all of these 3 input are states. Okay, they are the same thing that we are asking the user of. So the user is not required to choose one, choose all of them. No, the user can choose just one in this case. Okay, so how many states of matter do we have? Are you sure it's 3? I'm not sure. I think it's 2. No, I'm not sure. I think last time I just said it's 1 because the 2 died. Okay, so that's just by the way. Okay, so the user has been able to select an answer in this case. You get it? Okay, so that's the radio type of input. That's the radio type of input. It is used to select one option from many given options. One option from what? Many given options. That's nice. Then we also have another wonderful one. Let's say what so this one can also be used to determine whether the person is a male or female, so that the person wouldn't be able to select male and female at the same time. So whenever you are trying to do something like that, you use the radio type input, okay, or the radio input type, whatever you call it, or the radio value for the type attribute for the input element. Okay, so that's fine, and then we are good to go. We have another one. How do we apply this guy? Let me think. Okay, so let me get BR. BR. Okay. The label. Yeah. I will just call on this guy. Say P. The question is very simple. Let's languages. This is not good. Languages we are using for this course. Okay, for this course, let's see. For this course, so this is what we want our user to answer, right? What is the language, or what are the languages we are using for this course? Let's go down here, and then we will be needing label, right? Our user should get a label. For is that important? Maybe I should skip it. Skip it for that. Say HTML, and get my input. This guy should come. My input should come before this guy. My input should be, yes, another one. We are tackling another type of input, and we call it the checkbox input. Okay, the checkbox input. Okay, so the checkbox, I will just explain that to you later on, maybe when we get to the browser. You understand what I mean. Another input, it is still what? Checkbox. Okay, I'm actually writing this thing what? Checkbox. Okay. Then we'll get a label for this checkbox. JavaScript. Okay. Conventions. JavaScript. We need an input element, and going to be a checkbox. Okay, until then we are good to go. I think say this one is going to be CSS, of course. Okay, so our work is fresh. So let's look at some difference between the radio and the checkbox. You see, the radio element automatically provides you, okay, let me see, 1 2 come 2 3. Sorry. So the radio element automatically gives you a circled button, whilst the, let me try again, whilst the checkbox gives you a box button or whatever you call it. The radio element allows you to select one option from a choice or from many options, but the checkbox allows you to select multiple options or all of the options that are given. You get it? So these are the differences you are supposed to note. So in case you are asking a question or doing something that you think will require this, then you have to know how to go about, how to go about that. Okay, so what else should we learn again when it comes to forms? There are indeed a whole lot. There are a bunch of stuff we can learn from this guy. Sometimes too, you would want to get a date from the user. So you want the user to input date, then should be able to do that by setting type to what date, right? And so, and the user will be able to select a date from that. Date is used for input for depending on the, let's go refresh our browser and see something. Okay, so the user will be able to select a day and what, a year, and automatically they are provided with what, our calendar, and they will be able to choose from. So which date is this? Today is 23rd. I'm actually doing the video on 23rd. So let me see if I can choose February, March, October, maybe December, and I will say which year. I'm talking about 2026. Okay, I need 2029. Hey, 2029. Okay, so they said I haven't gotten there, so they wouldn't allow me to choose that. Okay, so I've been able to ask my user to choose a date, and he has done just that. He has done just that. Okay. We also sometimes would want our user to enter a very specific date or a very specific that will be for another time. Or better so let me cover it before you go and ask me. I saw this thing somewhere and I don't seem to understand. Okay, so sometimes you will be able to specify which dates or which range of dates that your user should choose from. Okay, which range of dates your user should choose from. Which range of dates your user should choose from. And you could do that by using the max value attribute and the min attribute. I don't think I'll go through this. I've told you this, so if you want to do that, then you do that. Then sometimes you would want to get a date and a time at the same time from a date and a time at the same time from your user, right? And that one you use daytime, then local. Okay. Yes, yeah. Yes, I guess, yes. I should be working. Refresh my browser. Daytime lookup. That's good. So now our user is going to choose. Okay, so that's it. Choose the date on the 7th of February. Then the time is going to be for. If I want something else, let's see. Yeah, I can move downwards. Okay, say 17 p.m. I like AM, so made my choice. Okay, so you use datetime local if you want to get the time and date at the same time from a user. From on the email, we've specified that already. If you want to put it in sometime, if you want just the month, then you can specify month. If you want any number at all, you can specify number. Then you can yeah. Okay, sometimes you would be inputting something in the search field. Okay, in that case, what do you want? What do you think should be the type? Actually, search, right? So if you go to search engines and you enter whatever you want to enter, then let me close this guy. Whatever you want to enter, then you will be able to use your search engine. Okay, so that's that. So this is actually searching for something. You get it? See the difference we are getting here. Maybe you don't. So that actually we have not tried to do anything with this guy. That's why you are seeing something like this. But I hope gradually you are getting the understanding of this concept very, very well. You are getting the understanding of this concept very, very well. If you want the user to input a website or whatever have you, then the type should be set to URL. That would be website. Right? So this should be a website. So that's when if you want the user to input just the week number we are in now, just specify week. Okay, so input is very, very important and has a lot of components. So this one, the user will be able to choose the week that we are in. Okay, the week that we are in. Okay, so let me choose my week. It says this week. So we are in the 8th week. So 8th week. We are in the 8th week now. Wow, that's fine. We are in the 8th week now in 2020. So that's basically all that you have to learn about the input element. But there are other elements as well that you can learn from when it comes to this guy. Okay, so let's see some of the other elements. To use them. Okay, so we've talked about the input element, we've talked about the label element. Now we'll go to the select element. What is this select element used for? Okay, so the select element defines a drop-down list. So you don't worry, I would understand. So let's take an example. Let's go down here. We get some breaks, break, and break. You can go down here now, get a paragraph and say choose your favorite celebrity. Okay, celebrity. Okay, that's fine. This one I just want it to be a drop down list. Okay, a drop down list. So I will use the select element for you to know how it works. and how to use it also. I could use label for the paragraph, whatever I've done with the paragraph. I decided to go in for select this guy. Yes, select name and category. Okay, so I will just say celebrities. Okay, celebrities. Yeah, I'll say select or sell for celebrity, and then I will open it. Then I would have to give the user options, right? So I'll use the option element. So I hope you are learning something new. The option element, and I'll say value. Do I need a value? I will skip that one and say maybe Saturday. Option say senior man Tawale. Oh, my shutter Wale shutter Wale. Okay. Then the one for the girls, haha. Option Kwame Yuji, right? Kwame Yuji. Then one for the kids, TTHE dance, right? TTHE dance, that's fine. TTHE dance, the dance. Oh, he's called what? I remember this guy said he has a wonderful name, Sugar Daddy. Okay, Sugar. That's what he calls himself. Okay. So let me actually do this guy. Just want to bring it here so that you see something. So I'll be able to choose from the list that has been given. So that's what the select element does. Okay. That's what the select element does. Okay, so automatically, if you don't select anything, you see before we came here, let me refresh this guy so that you see. Before you came here, you see that circle here is already selected. If you don't want circle here, you select shutter. If you don't want shutter, you select quality. If you don't want quality, you select kitty dance. Okay, so that's just by the way. Okay, so that's what the select element is used for a drop down list. And I hope you saw the drop down list that we were talking of. Okay, by default the first item is selected. If you don't want the first item to be selected, you can choose the one to be selected by using the attribute selected. Okay, damn it. Okay, so when we go there this time round, we shouldn't see Sarkodie automatically selected because he came first in our list, but this time round we should see Shatawale. So let me refresh our browser, and then there we go. So you see when we came here, you see Shatawale now to be the first guy or the selected element. Okay. When you want the user to select more than one favorite artist or celebrity, you can just use the multiple element or the select element. Okay. On the select element, use multiple on the select element, and the user will be able to select more than one artist. Okay, so where's my select element? That will come here. Okay, so the multiple attributes, and we are good to go. So in this case, the user wouldn't be able to select just one, but at least 2 or 3 or 4. So Kwame, okay, so the user is able to select anything at all that he or she wants. That's that. Hey, I almost forgot about this important element. this important element. Sometimes you go to a website and they tell you maybe your name, your password. No, we don't need passwords there. Your email, then they will just say leave us a message, right? Yeah, leave us a message, and that's done with the help of what, a test area. Okay, a test area. So this will be our introduction to the test area, and maybe our last thing to tackle in forms. Tackle with forms. Okay, so I say I will just go for a level. Uh, Message here. Message here. And you know the message cannot be written in just an input element with that small box. No, it wouldn't be enough for the user. So the user would need a very big text box. We use the text area element. Okay. So in this one, let me move down so that I would show you well. So the name attribute is normal thing. So I'll just say message. Message. The ID, I can say it's mess. The course, yes. Now we come to the most important thing. You see, we have course and we have rows. The course stands for columns and is specify how the height of our text box, and the rows will specify the number of lines the user can actually input in the text box. So by default it is 3020. 3020. So when I hit Ctrl plus S to save my browser and refresh, I should see this guy over there. I should see my text box over here, and it says message here. Where's message here? Do something. Oh, see where message here. So that's where message here is found. So in this case, if the user clicks on that, he or she will be able to, input something. When the thing gets to the other end, it just drops to the next line and it moves on. Because we said 10 rows, the user will be able to input 10 columns, just like above. When it gets to 10, okay, so yeah, I'm sure that this thing is actually okay. So that's that. Let me get my label here. Yeah, the top. Yes. Get back, refresh, and then to go. Okay. So that's it. That's the test area. It is very, very important. Yeah. Am I forgetting these things? Why that? I'm forgetting them. Um, okay. So I think there is one important thing that I would show. Sometimes you go in there and in your input field, you will get something to it. Placeholder. The placeholder will be a text that will be written in the input box or input text box that's provided for the user, a virtual text that the user can use to override that. So let's say for our first text box, and that's my first name. First name. Okay, so let's refresh our browser and you see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're actually down. That's what. Okay, so you see when you come here, your first name, I have row over here, so I can just write another one. This guy. So the placeholder just holds the place for the real thing to be input, but it actually sends a message if we don't want to use the label element, or sometimes we can even use it in conjunction with the label element. So I can say your first name, then when we hit refresh again to see first name, you get it. So if the person is entering in, the person knows what he or she first name, and that's mine. Okay. So that's virtually everything that you would want to know about the form element. In our next video, we are going to talk about how to create a contact page and how to create a login page and also a sign out page and something professional. Now that you know the basics, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and also share the videos to your friends. Let them know and hear about those consults. Don't be the only person enjoying here. Let them also enjoy. Okay, sister, brother. That's okay. So now that you know the basics, we will be actually using it in real life in our subsequent lessons. Okay, do enjoy your day. Bye bye.